I'm back with Alice Murphy, who just read from A Showgirl's Rules for Falling in Love, which is out this week. Super exciting. There's so much from this delicious scene that you read, and then also from the background that you gave us on the book that I want to talk about. I love that we have a starchy hero. Who doesn't love a starchy
Mm,
hero?
hmm One of my favorites. It's so great. And I think the reason I love it and the reason that I love this pairing in particular is she's like very cynical and very like transactional in her relationships, which comes out of, being a girl who grew up like in a theater world of men. Like she knows what she has to do to get what she wants. And he's also like very controlled and very rigid. And he's just a man who's wrapped up in a little tense ball of self-denial. And the best thing about putting those two people together is because he doesn't buy kind of her BS, she has to kind of become a more true version of herself for him. And because she is like relentlessly trying to get him to kind of give into desire that she knows he clearly has, he becomes a more true version of himself. He lets loose, he kind of gives into things he wants more. There's a scene where they go to Coney Island and she buys him Cracker Jacks and he's like, I can't remember the last time I ate something just for the pleasure of it. And I think that's what's beautiful about romance, and the thing that I love about romance the most is watching two people become more true versions of themselves because of what the other person brings to the relationship. And that's what I think makes Thomas and Evelyn just such a fun couple to read, and certainly a fun couple to write.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so you developed these characters because you are the author of this book. However, your other character, you said her name was Phoebe.
Mhm.
She fictionally developed these characters and wrote this
Yeah.
this story. So how was that for you in terms of your writing process and then in terms of, you know, I'm assuming Phoebe is not a complete self-insert of you. So differentiating how Phoebe related to the characters versus how you relate to the characters.
Yeah, so that's one of the things that I love the most about the Frame story is, you know, Phoebe starts to fall in love with Armitage, who's the guy who has hired her to do this research. And he doesn't anticipate she's going to write a book about it. And so the kind of knockout, drag out fight they have at the end is he's like, this is my family's legacy. Like, I'm a public figure. You can't just like write a book about this. And she's like, well, it's not fair. If I don't publish this, then they're going to be lost forever. And I don't want that for them. And I care about these figures from the past that we've all kind of erased and forgotten. Not just Thomas and Evelyn, but, Evelyn's diverse group of theater friends. And so when I was writing Phoebe, writing this history, it was all about teasing out the parallels. So the things that she might have wanted from Armitage that she didn't get, she gives to Evelyn via Thomas. And the version of her that she wishes she was, because she's not as confident as Evelyn. She doesn't say what she wants as much as Evelyn. She kind of gets to live out her fantasies of being that person through fictionalizing this history. And then, of course, there's the happily ever after element, which she ultimately does give to Thomas and Evelyn in, I would say, spectacular form. It's like if you love that like kind of big last scene of Moulin Rouge, like where everything hits the fan, I think you're gonna like the ending. So it was, for me, it was all about, because I don't actually really see much of myself in either of these characters. So it was really about, I think Phoebe is the core, because Phoebe then projects everything about herself, her relationship onto Thomas and Evelyn while still incorporating these like quote unquote historical facts about their relationship.
Did you write Evelyn and Thomas's story and then Phoebe and Armitage's story?
So this is actually one of those fun editing things. So I had an amazing editor named Erin McClary who, when I brought the book to Union Square and they decided they wanted to buy it, there is actually only one chapter of Armitage and Phoebe, and it happens like right at the end. And it was like 30 pages long. It was sort of like, like when you read a fanfic and it's like 5 times she said no and 1 time she said yes, right? And it's like these little like micro scenes of a relationship. That's sort of what it was. So Phoebe narrated throughout the whole thing, but then she only got one chapter. And Erin McClary was like, I don't think that's the strongest choice for this book. I think you need to have them throughout. I think you really want people to care about these two because that's what makes ultimately Phoebe deciding to rewrite the ending. Because we want to care about the way the ending goes, we need to have more of them. So it was a really big kind of restructure lift to then implant more of Phoebe and Armitage throughout the story and kind of bolster that historical narrative.